So we need to meet your mother then, right?
Yeah, so my mom's his age. But anyways, it's interesting because you never know where the next script is coming from. And it can come from anywhere. Because a lot of times, the agents are so focused on selling movies to the studios that there are so many screenplays that they have by their writers that have been on the shelf for 4 years that are incredible screenplays that we never get. So unless somebody happens to send them to us or something like that, we get them from all different places. This is what I'm trying to say. So the point is, if you find that you know somebody in the movie business, and most people do know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, we've gotten several projects like that have turned out to be projects that we've done. It's happened on a movie we did called Scorched with Woody Harrelson and John Cleese, who was my brother's friend who wanted to be a screenwriter. So you just never know where they're coming from, because it's very hard for producers to find good material. And I think that a good thing that you can do is go through the creative directory, which I'm sure, do you all know what the creative directory is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you go through the creative directory, and you can look up these companies that are doing movies that are similar to the kinds of movies that you might want to do, and cold call these companies. And the first thing you want to say is, I have a screenplay that's really great. Because people always are afraid they're going to miss something that might be good. So you can't be shy about selling them your screenplay. And 80% of the people will not do it, but 20%, if you make enough calls, will take it. And of those 20%, maybe one will read it, and it can pay off.
Cool. How fast can you tell if you're in the hands of a professional when you start reading?
Well, we have the 30-page rule at our office. So we give it 30 pages, and if the dialogue's good, and it's a good, well-structured, and the plot seems interesting, we'll keep reading. I think the most important thing for writers that are trying to get their first gig and try to get in is to make sure that your screenplay is absolutely as good as it could be. And I can't tell you the number of screenplays that we get in that are 150 pages or 140 pages, or Act 1 is at the end of page 40 instead of at the end of page 32, or the dialogues are kind of stilted. So, oftentimes what happens is writers give the screenplays to their friends to read. Well, nobody wants to tell their friend that the screenplay is not that good, and a lot of times their friends don't know exactly what they're reading. They haven't really read screenplays before. So whatever you can do to get other people that are like an arm's length from you to read your screenplay, to give you some honest feedback, whether it be in structure or dialogue or length, is important. Because when you send somebody your screenplay, they have to take 2 hours out of their time to read it. And they get a lot of screenplays. So instead of going home at night and playing with their kids, they're going home and sit down for 2 hours and read your screenplay. And they'll probably read one screenplay from you. So if it's not really good, they're probably not going to read another one. So you should make it as good as you possibly can. And length and structure are the most important things in the plot. You've got to have that. And I know you hear this all the time, but we look at it. A screenplay you should send out should not be longer than 120 pages. 125 absolute maximum. A comedy should be at 105 pages. Most screenplays that people send out for the first time, if you're first-time writer, should be, short. The shorter the better, 110 pages. Because it forces you the discipline to throw out the stuff in your screenplay that you think is good but might not be that good. Because there's no reason for a screenplay to be any longer unless you're doing like Gone with the Wind, which is not necessarily a good idea if you're trying to get people engaged in what you're doing. So that's what I would highly recommend. The length is important because it forces you to really take a hard look at your screenplay. And the structure is important. Act 1, you better know where Act 1 is, what Act 1 is, and it better end between pages 30 and 35. If it ends on page 38, you got more work to do. So, and then Act 2, you better know what the end of Act 2 is, and it better be in the right page count, because otherwise your screenplay just kind of meanders off. There is a definite structure to these things.
So how important is concept in the indie world?
You know, concept is very important. I mean, there's a lot of great character pieces out there, and character pieces always do well. You know, if you write a really brilliant character piece, that's great. You know, brilliant character pieces have to have great dialogue, and you know, in a screenplay, it's really. I know I'm telling you something you already know, but I'm just, from our point of view, people are interested in what we look at normally. So, you know, when you're telling your story, go through your screenplay and make sure that you've told the story through action, because we get a lot of screenplays in where the people tell the story through dialogue, which is not really what you want. That reads more like a play. You want to tell the story through action. So in any way, in any particular place where you can actually tell the story through action instead of having two people at a table talking about the story, whereas like, you know, telling you the backstory. Well, I went over my mother is an alcoholic, and she's you know, oh, that's terrible, Jeanette, you know, that your mother's an alcoholic. Well, you don't know what that did to my childhood. That made me you know, really upset when I was a kid, and I've been hurt ever since. You want to see that her mother's an alcoholic, and you want to see what happened to her in her childhood. There are, of course, places where you do want to show you have to tell it through dialogue, but most of the time you want to show as much as you can. So in a character piece, it's very important to show the situation they're in, and if you can really make those characters jump off the page, the concept isn't as important in those cases. I knew that was getting around. Sorry.